With this bombardment of information that you have, learn to sift the trash from the gold. This is what I would like to convey also to the young boys and girls out there, that sky is limit for you.
Hello everyone. Hope you all are safe and sound. I am Flight Carrier Yashika Tomar from A Flight NCC NIT Trichy. Lakshya is the annual Defense and Civil Services Symposium of NIT Trichy. We bring to you the first guest of Lakshya 2021. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today. She was commissioned into the logistic branch of Indian Army in 1994. During her army tenure, she has served in Operation Rhino in Assam and actively participated in Kargil war. She is the first lady officer from the logistic wing to be posted in high altitude areas of Jammu and Kashmir. Let us all welcome Captain Yashika Hatwal Tyagi Ma'am.
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind
It's a
Ma'am.
great pleasure for me to be part of Lakshya, and I wish each one of you great success in life ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. So, ma'am, let us start the session.
Yes, we
So,
must.
yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, my first question to you is like, as a child, we get fascinated by the very littlest of things and tend to aim for various different professions every now and then. Like, was joining the defense force a childhood dream, or did it change after you joined NCC?
Okay. See, when I was a child, uh, army had not opened its gates for ladies. But since my father was an army officer, my father had fought three wars, 1962, 65, 71. And so the entire mahal was of olive greens. And then I lost my father when I was just 7 years old. So wearing olive greens was like taking the legacy ahead. From that time onwards, I just wanted to wear uniform. You know how it is, and uniform in any form. So when I was in school, the first thing was Scouts and Guides because it offered me to wear a uniform. And as I grew, there was NCC. So NCC, I joined from junior wing, went to Republic Day camp, then came to senior wing, again went to Republic Day camp. Then, as part of Indo-Canada Youth Exchange Program, I went to Canada. So going ahead with NCC was that जुनून of wearing uniform. कैसा भी मिल जाए बस यूनिफॉर्म पहननी है. और उस टाइम पर फौज तो थी नहीं. So I wanted to join Indian Police Services, IPS, because that was the only service which would allow me to wear a uniform. So I was preparing for my civil services, and after graduation, wanted to move on ahead with post graduation and civil services. But now was the year 1993, and lady officers were now welcome in Indian Army. So that is how the goal of joining IPS just shifted to joining Army, because olive greens was the love, and it was like taking my father's legacy forward. And then I joined Indian Army. So that is how Army came about for me.
Yes, ma'am. Like, how did you manage to keep yourself focused towards your goal? Like, we can see that, like, what advice would you give to these students who are swaying according to the waves in the ocean of life? Like, they are not particular about one field. What advice would you give
Dikshita,
them?
Dikshita, I will not give any advice to this generation. Why? Because this generation, I believe, is super aware. You have got information on your palm tops with all those smartphones that you are carrying, and with all this information that is available to each one of you so easily. You are very aware. My only advice is that use your tools wisely.
Yes.
With this bombardment of information that you have, learn to sift the trash from the gold. And that is a big challenge because there are so many distractions. It's very easy to get distracted by the deluge of information that you have. So that is where you need to have focus. My focus was wearing uniform. That was all I was focused about, to wear uniform. With this generation, I will say you must find out more and more about your passion, about the things that you really feel strongly about. And gone are the days when there were just very limited career opportunities. In our times, career opportunities are very limited. But at your age, you are in that golden age, my dears, each one of you. So just know that which field interests you, and you will find 1001 openings, specialized niche area openings in that. So my advice to each one of you is find out more and more about the area that you feel passionate about, where you can grow not only as a career oriented person, but also as a human being, that you enjoy your life. Because when you enjoy, only then you will get expert in it. And that is all I can
Yes.
advise each one of you.
Yes, ma'am, truly said. And ma'am, like, how supportive was your family on this decision, like, of you joining the armed forces?
Dikshita, I told you my father was in army, and losing him at a very early age. Like we were three sisters, right? My elder sister was 9, I was 7, and my younger sister was just 5 years old when we lost our father. So the family was very supportive. My mother was extremely, what do you say, clear from that moment onwards that my girls should be uh, professionals as they move on in lives, because she had seen uh, difficulties in that young age, a young widow, growing three girls. She always felt that had she done some kind of a professional course, our financial stature would have been little more comfortable. And so she wanted her daughters to be well read, well educated, and to be professionally sound. So my elder sister became a doctor, and then she worked with naval hospitals, and she got married to a naval officer. After completing graduation, I joined army, and then I got married to an army officer.
Yes.
And my younger sister, Dikshita, is a serving Air Force officer, and she is married to an Air Force officer. So my family is extremely supportive of our decisions joining army. As you can see, all three sisters in three
Yes.
services, husband from three different services. So this is what I would like to convey also to the young boys and girls out there. The sky is limit for you.
Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, like, what message would you like to give to the parents and relatives of youngsters aspiring to join the armed forces, especially when it comes to girls, because we hear that their parents don't allow much.
Dikshita, that you have called me today for this interview shows that girls have come a long way, right? So on
Yes,
this
ma'am.
screen, on this side of camera, I am sitting. On the other side of camera, you are sitting. We are two women of modern age, right?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
If I am the present, you are the future. And the parents today are certainly acknowledging it. I will tell you why. If you have asked me the question that why parents should feel positively about girls joining army, I would like to tell them that this is an organization where from the day one you are equal.
Yes,
From the day one, your training is same, your uniform is same, Your rank is same. Your salary is same. And so it's but natural that duties also have to be same. And so, not as much to the parents, but to the young girls also, I would like to say that if you want to speak the language of equality, then you have to take the fair share of fight. I always say it, and in so many places, I have repeated this sentence to girls that take the fair share of fight. Don't hide behind being a weaker sex. Don't feel that things will come to you easy. No, if you want to have equality, then be ready to take all the challenges equally. Prove yourself, prove your mettle, and be acknowledged as a professional, not as a girl, not as a boy, not as someone's daughter, someone's son, but always be known as the kind of professional you are, as the kind of human being you are, by the sheer gold of your personality and sheer iron of your soul.
Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, like moving forward, like how was your SSB experience, ma'am? And like how do you think a candidate should prepare for his or her SSB?
My experience as SSB, oh my God, no one can forget SSB. I am sure those of you who have been to SSB or heard about SSB from your friends and family will have many interesting and many harrowing tales to tell because it is, you know, एनडीए तो ज्यादातर बॉयज ने दिया होगा
Yes.
because because as you come to class 12th, before your class 12th result has come,
Yes.
NDA is the first exam that almost all boys appear for. And
Yes.
SSB experience is different for everyone. And why it is so special? Because this is an exam where you are tested for your originality. And this is what I also remember from my SSB days because no one can prepare you for SSB. You just go there and sit in that exam, sit, not exam, various tests that you are made to appear for. There is your aptitude test, your personality is tested, your uh, attitude is tested, your confidence is tested, your passion is tested, your mindset is tested, your positivity is tested. And for all of these things, I would like to tell each one of you out there that for SSB, no one can prepare you as much as you yourself can do it because SSB tests you for your originality. And this is one thing I want to tell each one of you that when you go for SSB, be original. Don't go there in a factory setting mode. Don't go there like a custom, prepared product that everyone is answering similarly. Everyone's approach is similar. Everyone is, mentally tuned in a similar fashion because army is looking for originality. And no matter how many coaching centers you go to, SSB is such a foolproof method that they will find out your pluses and minuses just like this. So, if you want to appear for SSB, work on yourself, work on your way of thinking, work on positive mindset, work on developing social skills, work on developing language skills, work on being a team player because there are no individual gladiators when it comes to army. It is all about camaraderie. It is all about being together.
Yes.
And Even if you are putting your point across in a group discussion, you should know how to put it across in such a way that the team benefits, not the individual, because that is what army is all about. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And ma'am, like, how was life at OTA Chennai different from your civilian life? Like, how did you adapt yourself to the daily routine of OTA Chennai?
Dikshita, you are an NCC cadet, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And this Lakshya program is also from NCC. So
Yes,
when I'm
ma'am.
speaking to you, I believe that the NCC camps have certainly tuned you to some extent of the disciplined way of life, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
there is when you go to camps, you have to get up in the morning. No one is waking you up. You have to get up on your own. You have to be present on the PT ground on time. There are the uniform, there are regulations of wearing different uniforms at different times. There is a protocol as you speak to seniors and as you groom your juniors. And this also helped me when I went to OTA, because being there on the drill square was not a new thing for me, because I was twice RDC.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
academy is like a place nowhere before. Being an NCC cadet was just point percentage in my favor. Point. Because academy was a totally different ball game. Totally different. And nothing that I had seen had prepared me for academy. Day one, day one, as we reached there, we were taken around academy. We were given an academy darshan. It was huge. It made me feel in awe of the organization that I have come into. It gave me the sense of responsibility, and it made me remember every small little detail of whatever I had learned in NCC. So I'm sure that one of you, when you go to academy as cadets, will remember those days in camps when you were running from one parade to another, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll tell you something very interesting.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
When you go to academy and there is this drill square is like sanctum sanctorum. It is like the garbhagriha of the academy. A cadet is born on the drill square because it teaches you the pride of wearing uniform. It teaches you time management. It teaches you that how on that one word of command, hundreds of cadets give a split second reaction. It teaches you that how to give an order and how to react on an order. It teaches you that there is no individual style of doing a parade. Everyone has to do the drill, the marching in that same timing. If you are given a word of command, say dahne mode, everyone has to do ek, and then do teen ek. I cannot say ek, do teen ek, or someone is saying ek, do teen ek. No, timing for everyone has to be the same. It teaches you to think alike. Hundreds of cadets thinking alike. Hundreds of cadets listening to the same word of command. Can you imagine the energy on that drill square? So, when you are there, the energy is like, if I can just give you a very random example, मैग्नीफाइंग ग्लास के ऊपर जब सन रेज पड़ती हैं, if you take a magnifying glass and the sun rays concentrate on it, can burn the paper below. You've done that
Yes, ma'am.
experiment in your school days.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
That is the kind of collective energy in academy, everyone almost breathing at the same time. And that is what happens even when we leave academy. The entire regimentation of army is same. Now you know that army sends its regiments as United Nations peacekeeping force also. Have you heard of it?
I haven't heard of it, but
Okay. So Indian Army sends its contingent as United Nations peacekeeping force along with armies of many countries, right?
yes,
And the commanders are sometimes Indian Army officers also. Commanders are sometimes the French Army commanders. Sometimes they are Americans. Sometimes they are from any other nationality. But on one command, the armies from different nations react at the same time. So it's not only about Indian army, it's about armies of the nation. So when you go to academy, in a broader sense, you are forming part of an elite force of the world because your thinking is being aligned.
yes,
So
ma'am.
this is what happens when you go to academy. You are
Right.
changed from here. You are changed from here. Your bearing is changed. Your thinking is changed. Your way of speaking is changed. And you come out as a better version 2.0.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh,
And ma'am, like, what were your expectations from military life before joining, and like, did the perception change after joining the military?
when I joined army, Dikshita, I had a version in my mind from what I have seen in my family, right? So coming from a military background, having family, friends, and relatives in army, staying in a cantonment, I had a perception about army. After losing my father, the family friends from army had given a, what do you say, a thought about the best people that are present on this earth are those wearing uniform. That was my perception before I joined army. Okay?
Yes,
Because in all our difficult times, army had held on to us like family. Even after father was not there, the family, army family was our extended family. When I came to NCC, the officers who were training us were from army. So I looked up to them as the role models. With this perception, I joined Indian Army. And let me tell you, when I joined Army and when I was part of organization, earlier I was looking at it from an outsider, right? But when I
yes,
joined Army and I was wearing the uniform, it was surreal. I felt relevant. I felt alive. And when I was part of Operation Vijay, I realized the importance of being a logistics officer when your troops are fighting counterinsurgency. I had that weight of responsibility.
yes,
I
ma'am.
was taught that the mistakes will come back in body bags. You are not allowed to make mistakes. And then, when I was part of Operation Vijay, the Battle of Kargil, I have seen the brave hearts with such close quarters being part of that war, seeing the highest examples of humanity and bravery, camaraderie, that my perception got strengthened. I came to army with stars in my eyes. When I joined army, I had stars on my shoulders. But when I was in thick of it, I became part of one of the stars in the galaxy. You know, with all the officers out there, I was one of them. And I was fighting shoulder to shoulder with my male brethren. Nobody told me that you are a woman, you cannot do this. You are a woman, you cannot do that. No, it was equality. I was pregnant and I was there in Operation Vijay. No one told me that you cannot do
Yes.
it because you are, not a man. No, I was part of it and it gave me wings. It strengthened me as a person. And I think till today, I carry that strength within. So army
Yes.
has changed me totally.
Yes, ma'am. Like it's the same case with us. Like before we joined NCC, we knew nothing about. Like we thought, yes, it will be like only parades and all. But after joining NCC, we came to know like what actually bonding is all about. How
Correct.
like because in the campus, if no one is around, we can just see our batchmates. They'll always be behind us. So yeah, it teaches us bonding a lot. So,
Good,
and
good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah.
yes, and ma'am, like, could you tell us like how proud were you when you earned those stars on the shoulders with a silver medal? And like what difference did you see in yourself before getting into the academy and after getting commissioned?
Okay. Dikshita, when I reached academy, uh, and that first day on that drill square. So let me tell you a very interesting thing.
Yes, sir.
If you go to academy, you can only step on the drill square if you are wearing uniform. If you are wearing civil dress, you cannot step on the drill square. So day one, when we reached academy, our uniforms were still being stitched. And so we were in our muftis. What is mufti? It was white full sleeve shirt, black trousers, brogue shoes, and academy tie. And there was this small area outside drill square where we were being given our first lesson of diamond bind. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, as we were standing there and our parade ustad, the drill sergeant, was giving us the first lesson. Since I was an NCC cadet, I already had an idea how to do it. But other girls, remember, we were only 25 of us. Out of 25,000, we were only 25 girls. This was the year 1994.
Oh,
Very initial phases of girls being commissioned into Indian Army. And then I saw the academy adjutant approaching. Academy adjutant, when he comes, he's a very glorious figure, right? So wearing his dress, so beautiful, so magnificent. The shining stars, the peacock at the right angle, the uniform and the lanyard and the crease, the shining shoes where you can see your face on those shoes. They're shining to that extent. And the academy adjutant is always mounted on a horse. So he came on a horse, and it was a sight that I'd never seen before. No one had seen. So as he approached, the drill sergeant gave us, a word of command, diamond. And I gave my best of NCC training wala, chatki wala, diamond. It was like lightning. And as I did that, the adjutant, Colonel Lalit Rai, he noticed me. And that is when he told the drill sergeant, कि साहब ये वाला कैडेट को रेडी करिए कॉन्टिजेंट कमांडर के लिए. And from day one, I was selected to be the drills, the contingent commander. And this came to me at the heels when I went to Republic Day camp and I was not selected for Rajpath March because that time there was a height criteria, and I'm a Pahadi, so my height is short. So I was not falling in that average height of the contingent, and so I was not selected. It was very sad moment for me, but I could not help it because it was a height criteria. But when I came to academy, I was selected to be the contingent commander. So you see, if you get a failure once, never feel that it is failure forever, because one setback certainly takes you forward and may make you a contingent commander like me. So it was a very glorious moment for me when I was that contingent commander and led my contingent with the sword in my hand, and I, led the contingent in that passing out parade. I got silver medal, and the best in drill.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
was a moment that I can never forget in my life, as we took allegiance to that tricolor, और उसके नीचे से जब हम मार्च करते हुए निकले, saluting the days and saluting the tricolor and the academy flag, crossed the antim pug and became the officers of Indian Army. So it's a very glorious moment for me, Dikshita. I think it's the hugest moment of my life.
Yes, ma'am. Like we also had like similar kind of experience. Like when we had Independence Day parade, we did the
Okay.
same thing. Like we had this flag hoisting, and before the parade, like we had this parades like twice a day. And in the morning we used to have parades. Then we go for classes, and then in the evening again we used to have classes. And after that we used to like polish our DMS and then make our uniforms ready. Like yeah, it used to be very hectic. But then like on the Independence Day parade, when we all do like all the commands together, like we truly feel very proud of us.
Yes, yes, yes. It's a different feeling. You cannot compare it to anything else.
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
And ma'am, like uh, what were your initial thoughts when you were called during the Kargil war? Like how did you prepare your troops mentally for the war?
Okay. Dikshita, Kargil War started in 99, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
And I was posted to Kargil in 1997. I volunteered to be the first lady officer to be posted to high altitude and extreme cold climate area. Till that
yes,
time, Army had not posted any lady officer from logistics wing. There were few lady doctors, but none from the logistics wing. And I volunteered to be part, or rather volunteered to be the first lady officer. And I was like a prototype. Everyone was testing me professionally, physically, mentally. That can girls do it? Can lady officers do it? And I was very young. I was just about 24, 25 years at that time, prime of my age, and being tested on every front. It was the time that I was aware that being the first lady officer is actually a moment of great responsibility. If I falter, if I am not up to the mark, Indian Army may not send any more lady officers to high altitude and extreme cold climate areas. And so it would mean delaying the process. And it was a challenge that I had asked for, and it was a challenge that I wanted to prove myself worthy for. And so from 97 till 99, when my tenure was coming to an end, Indian Army's experiment proved successful. And by that time, they had started posting one or two more lady officers into high altitude and extreme cold climate areas. So it was a moment of great pride for me that I have been found worthy. But this was also the time that Kargil war had started. So I was actually already there since last 2 years as a logistics officer. And I was already in sync with my troops. Rather, proving myself was uh, such a deal with me, such a huge deal with me, that the troops that I was commanding, they started saying, though it's a very patriarchal sentence, but they said, "Ma'am, हम आपको मैम नहीं बुलाएंगे, हम आपको sir बुलाएंगे." Because there is nothing different about being a lady officer or a male officer per se.
Yes, ma'am.
So at that time, I felt that I have now been accepted. I have proved myself as an officer. I have proved myself as being an equal in professional sense of the term. And that meant a great deal to me. And so when Operation Vijay started and we were thrown into those challenging times, my troops were with me because we had to work throughout the days, overnight. We were just catering for almost 15,000 troops in that area before Operation Vijay. And overnight, we had more than 2 lakh troops being flown in. It was a challenge for logistics. But by that time, the mental frequency had gelled in so well with my troops that the battle report that I earned and 2 medals that I got after Operation Vijay goes on to prove that it was a perfect team in all respects.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Like,
when you are there in field areas, you have to be in total communication with the men you command. You have to be like a family. You have to have a constant interaction. You have to have constant line of communication open. And it's only camaraderie that takes you forward. And I'm sure that it is not only in army, but wherever you go in your life, if you are in sync with the team that you lead, you will always be able to give wonderful results, right?
yes, ma'am. Yeah, like we like NCC cadets, we all consider ourselves as an NCC family and like have huge bond among us.
True. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yes, ma'am. And
So
ma'am,
today
like,
that I am talking to you, I also feel part of the same NCC family because that
yes,
was
ma'am.
my first family, right? That was
Yes,
my
yes, ma'am.
initial grooming days. So we share that bond. You and me
Yes,
and all the NCC cadets, we share that bond.
yes, ma'am. And ma'am, like, what was your best moment in the journey as a military officer that you will cherish and feel proud of?
Um, Dikshita,
Yes.
when I was in Kargil fighting Operation Vijay, I was mother of a toddler and also was pregnant with another child. And when my troops would look at me, when any other person would look at me, you know, their their level of confidence would rise many folds. It says that, ma'am, aapko dekhkar our spines stand erect. We feel that if she can perform non-stop in this condition, then she's a role model for each one of us. These are the kind of things that fill me with so much of pride. And the kind of work that we did, the success of Indian Army in Operation Vijay was to a great extent given to logistics. Because the last soldier there at the border, in eye to eye contact with the enemy, was not found wanting for anything that he required. May it be ammunitions, may it be clothing, may it be anything, right from the spears to the bullets. We were there. Bofor's gun ammunition was spread out across the country. And in just matter of hours and in matter of days, as logistics officers, we got it all together and made it available to the Bofors batteries spread out through the line of control. We established the forward area logistic support areas. And for this work, I was given a thumping battle report and two medals. That, my dear, is the proudest moment of my life. That is the highest point in my journey as an army officer. And I think
Yes.
that in Operation Vijay, it was not just me as an individual who was fighting. My husband was fighting in the forward area of Dras. I was in Leh and Kargil. My son, a toddler, was with there, and an unborn child was also indirectly fighting this war. So I think we were in it as a family, and everyone was giving support and synergy to each other. That is, that is what has made me the kind of person that I am today. And that is the highest point.
Yes, ma'am. You're truly an inspiration for all of us.
Thank
Yes, ma'am.
you.
And ma'am, next question is like, what were the major changes you observed during your transition from military to back to the civilian life? Like, how did you feel about the change?
Well, they say that you can take the uniform away from an army officer, but you cannot take away the attitude. You
Yes, ma'am.
cannot take away the mindset. You cannot take away the thought process. And so when I hung my boots, because at that time army was not, it was not a permanent commission
Yes.
for lady officers at that time. So I had to quit. And when I left, I will not use the word quit. I will say when I moved on from uniform to civilian life, I was still very much an army wife and a veteran. And that made me, uh, what do you say, an army officer who was in CVs. My way of interacting, my way of giving the or sharing my experiences with younger generation has always been from a strength point of being an army officer. And there have been many places where I have worked after leaving army. I raised and established two ex-servicemen polyclinics in counter-insurgency ops areas, one in Jorhat, one in Srinagar. Those were the areas where we had to go into the hinterland in all the terrorist infested areas and make the ex-servicemen aware about this Ministry of Defense project. It was difficult, but it gave that sense of purpose to me. And then a very recent example, I was working for about 4 to 5 years in Symbiosis International University as their administrative officer for 13 campuses pan India. So the kind of army flavor that I have brought into the way of working in their HR management or in their administration, everyone said, ma'am, even if you don't use your rank here, we would still know that we are dealing with a Fauji. And so, once a Fauji, always a
Always a
Fauji.
policy.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Truly said. Like, we heard. We heard that your experience of working with Asha's school and empowering them is the closest to your heart. Could you share your views on that?
Asha School, I was working there, Dikshita, as the principal. And when I was offered this position, I had many thoughts in my mind. Like any other person, I thought that how will I work in a school for specially able children? Because I had a perception in my mind. I had a preconceived notion in my mind that I will be sad if I work with them. I will be inundated with disabilities, right? In that sense of the word. But when I spent time with those children, I realized, Dikshita, that there is no one more able, more able than those children. Working with them made me realize that the thought of disability is in our minds as the thought of ability is in our minds. So, disability and ability are the preconceived notions that we think. These children could do everything. These children were full of positivity. They never fought. They never complained. They never brought each other down. They never uh, uh, went behind each other's back to gain favors. They were so full of positivity. My experience was them humbled me. They made me realize that the power to smile. They made me have confidence in one's own strength. They made, okay, I'll tell you a very, very interesting experience from the school. Very interesting. So once I was
Yes.
sitting in my office and a child came to me. And as he came inside, now they are, this particular child was hearing impaired and speech impaired. Okay. So he was complaining to me about the teacher. Now, what the teacher had done, teacher had dug the notes and had dug his notebook. So this child showed me everything the with the gestures. He dug the notes and touched the book and did like this. So imagine he conveyed to me that he did not like the teacher touching his notebook after the teacher has dirty fingers. And he made me come with him and scold the teacher. Now I went to the class and all the children expected me to admonish the teacher. So if I had just scolded or had I just spoken, they would not have understood because they could not hear. So I had to do it in sign language. So I also had to dig my nose, touch the notebook, and say, no, don't do it. Wrong. And so teacher held the ears and he was sent out, told to wash his hands and come back. And this thing made me realize that how important it is to take the right action in the right manner that the affected party understands that their complaints have been given due diligence. And after that, when the teacher had held his ears, washed his hands, came back, apologized to the students, and then they were all very happy. And then they were, very, uh, uh, very joyful that principal ma'am had scolded the teacher. So it's such simplicity, but they are extremely strong. They are extremely strong. And they taught me that staying with each other, helping each other, with a smile is the essence of life. And that is how it remains closest to my heart.
Yes, ma'am. Truly, uh, like we cannot imagine like how they do and all. Their way of thinking is also much better. They are more innovative than us
Yes,
in every
yes,
sense.
yes.
And ma'am, like related to this, like we also do like in social as a social responsibility event, we go to orphanage, visit like orphanage and like do different variety of programs there to help them and all as a part of NCC. So yeah,
Good.
that also brings us this memory that yeah, those children are really very innocent, like all the
You know,
small children.
you can do so many things. You can just give them dance therapy. You can go there and, you know, once a week or twice a week, because they need the motor movements to be adjusted. Sometimes their limbs go stiff. And dancing is a such a joyful exercise. You can just help them paint. You can just help them write. So this would help their motor movements. They would be more gain that social insight. Right? So they're very small little things that each one of us can do.
Yes, ma'am. Like when we do, like we go there and perform various activities in front of them, and they like really enjoy all those things. And in the end, when we do the dancing, they show us like extraordinary talent of them dancing with us.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Yes, yes, ma'am. And I'm like, what inspired you towards starting your YouTube channel, The Shaurya Tales?
Yes. My channel, Shaurya Tales, is uh, something which is very close to my heart. I always wanted to be connected to youth. I always wanted to be a bridge between defense forces and youth. But somehow I never knew how to do it. How to how to bring army to the youth. And so when lockdown started and when my children were at home, everyone like you also must have gone back home when there was lockdown. Similarly, when my sons were at home, so this, like I started with the sentence that you are a very aware generation. Your generation is very smart with a lot of ideas. Similarly, my sons told me that, Mom, why don't you start a YouTube channel? You are a storyteller. You have always told us the stories throughout our childhood. So why don't you share the stories of brave hearts? Why don't you share the stories of army traditions and trivia with great, stories of operations of Indian Army with the with the great digital audience that is there. And this idea really clicked me. And from here, the Shaurya Tales started. I started telling the stories. My first story was the day when Shaurav Kalia, the tragedy unfolded. It was a day, it was a Kargil martyr. So my first episode was broadcast on that day. And after that, I told many stories from Kargil. I told many stories from 71 war and 65 war and 62. And then the kind of love and affection that I got from the audience, oh my God, it was overwhelming. And then we came to 2021. Now, 2021 is the golden jubilee year of 1971 war. So I started a gold series. So every month from 2021, January onwards, I tell one story from 1971 war as gold series, in which the golden jubilee is celebrated. So one story from 1971 war, and they are all inspiring. I mean, the stories that would have
Yes.
your goosebumps would raise. The kind of stories are there. And then many boys and girls, youth like you, asked me to do a segment on how military life is like. How is life in academies? And so I started a segment in Shaurya Tales, Military Academies Decoded, where I tell how was the first day in academy and how is the generally first day in academy in all army, navy, or air force academies. How is the routine of training academies? So this is how Shaurya Tales is growing and evolving. So there is one story that I tell every week. Every Friday, a new story is released. So be part of Shaurya Tales. I would implore each one of you to listen to the stories. Subscribe if you want to subscribe, because this is, I never ask anyone to subscribe because I feel that if you feel about your nation, you will subscribe. But I always tell people to share these stories because what Indian Army does must be shared far and wide. So this is how Shaurya Tales is coming up, evolving, and do let me know if you want to hear any particular stories in Shaurya Tales. How can I help you through these Shaurya Tales? And and more and more coaching classes, more and more training academies, SSB training academies are now asking me to be part of them to train the candidates for SSB. But I am uh, not as much willing to do that. I would like to have a segment for people like you, those people who have already cleared the exam and are going for SSB. I would like to train each one of you free of cost. I would like to train each one of you out of my sheer desire to be part of your lives, for transforming lives. So, this is how Shaurya Tale will evolve even further. Do let me know if you want it to be done.
Yes, ma'am,
And you
surely.
can join me on my Instagram, that is Captain underscore Yashika underscore Shaurya Tales, on YouTube at Shaurya Tales.
Yes, ma'am. And about the like your way of telling story, it's really like very amazing. Like I also heard your like few of the stories, and when I listen to them, it literally gives me goosebumps, ma'am, while listening to them.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, Dikshita, if there is any story that you want to hear, do let me know.
Yes, ma'am, surely.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I'm like, what like can you brief us about the roles of engineer in the defense forces and what are the different ways by which an engineer student can join the defense forces?
Okay. Since yours is an engineering college, and as NCC cadets, I'm sure that the life of army attracts each one of you. So I will tell you that there are two ways in which, as engineering students, you can join army, right? So while you are in your college, in your final year, there is a university entry scheme wherein army officers, a team of army officers visits the engineering colleges of various universities all across India, and they test the students on various fronts. And the selected students get to join IMA, right? So that is first way in which you can join army while you are still in your college final year. That is university entry scheme. Second
Yes, ma'am.
is after you have completed your engineering, you can get through IMA through technical entry. So these are two ways in which an engineering student can join army. When you join army, there are three wings of engineering. So one is engineers. Say there is Bengal sappers, Bombay sappers, and Madras sappers. So one is engineers. Another is EME, that is electronic and mechanical engineering. And third is the core of signals, wherein the telecommunications are catered for. So there are three fields of engineering in army: engineers, electronic and mechanical engineering, and signals. So you can join any of these as per your specialization, as per your stream, through either technical entries or either through university entry scheme, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Or you can also give CDS and join army as a regular army officer. So these are the ways in which you can join army.
Yes, ma'am. It's very insightful to know all these details because many of us, like, since we are in engineering college, so many of us don't know about all these things. So it will be very helpful for them. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay.
And ma'am, if not defense forces, what would have been your second career option?
Oh, Dikshita. When I was in college, though I always wanted to wear olive greens, but I told you that till I was in college, Indian Army was nowhere in the scene. But I wanted to wear uniform. मुझे तो वर्दी ही पहननी थी. So I was preparing for civil services and wanted to be part of Indian police services. Everything to do with uniform and very seriously preparing for IPS officers. It was just IPS as a uniform service. Kiran Bedi was my idol. In my college days, I would, on my study table, I would keep her photograph and drew strength and energy from her. It was only in my final year college that Army opened the women entry scheme. And so then the dream of becoming IPS officer flew from the nearest window. And I appeared for SSB and became an army officer. So, answer to your question is, had I not been an army officer, had army not taken ladies, then I would have gone into Indian police services and worn uniform as a police officer. So, had it not been olive greens, it would have been a khaki uniform. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Like for us also, for particularly me, my aim of joining NCC was like because of the uniform. Like I have seen my father wearing uniform, and that inspired me to join like NCC. Even I wanted to wear uniform, and
Uniform.
now like when we have any parades or like Independence Day or any other like special days, the uniforms like we cherish a lot. Like we have to iron it, like all the crease should be there properly maintained, and like it literally takes 2 to 3 hours to iron the uniform and
You feel,
polishing of
do you feel that sense of pride when you wear uniform?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good, good.
And the last question will be like, if you could change one thing or decision from your past, what would it be?
Nothing, nothing. I would have done everything, everything in the manner that I have done so far in my life. I would have joined Scouts and Guides. I would have joined NCC. I would have joined Indian Army. I would have, had it been permanent commission, I would have continued as an army officer. That is not a decision that I took that time. It was something that was not on cards. So if you ask me if there is one thing that I could have changed, I could have changed Indian Army's policy of not having permanent commission for ladies from day one. That way, I would have been appearing for my board of brigadier this year, and that
Yes.
is that is when uh, uh, I would have, continued wearing olive greens. But that is something that was not in my hands, and my life, the way I have led it, the way my family has supported it, the way my environment has always given me the strength to go on, the kind of mindset that I have, the kind of warrior mindset that I have, I would not have changed it for anything else. And now, as I move on with my journey of Shaurya Tales, the way I have moved on training the youth to join army, I am a motivational speaker. I am a Josh Talk speaker. I am a TEDx speaker. I am now moving on in this journey of inspiring youth and transforming lives. And this is what I always dreamt. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'll continue doing, God willing.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, with this, we come to the end of our session. Thank you, ma'am, for taking your time to interact with us. It was pleasure talking to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dikshita. Jai Hind. And to each one of you who's listening to this talk, I wish you Godspeed. I wish you strength of mind and heart. I wish you a mindset so positive and so fierce that nothing, nothing can stop you. Just go out there and conquer the world. Jai,
Yes, ma'am. Jai Hind, ma'am.
Jai. Thank you.